Surviving the Applewhites, Chapter 20. Jake was trying to get ready for rehearsal with Destiny, yodeling the Lonely Goat Herd song in his wake, when it dawned on him that his life had slipped finally and utterly out of his control. He had become impossibly entangled with the Applewhites. First Winston had adopted him, and then by what seemed to be the same invisible and mysterious process, Destiny had too. The kid had begun explaining to anyone who would listen that Jake was the bestest brother in the whole wide world. Jake had told him that just because he had come to live at wit's end, it didn't mean that he was Destiny's brother, but Destiny was impervious to minor details of fact. When the family took over all the technical jobs on The Sound of Music, everybody was too busy working on the show to have time to look after a 4-year-old. Jake only had to go to rehearsal. He had more time than anybody, and since Destiny had already adopted him anyway, he had somehow become a kind of full-time babysitter. Nobody had actually asked him to look after Destiny, and he hadn't exactly volunteered. It had just happened. Jake could understand why Hal wasn't enough of a brother for Destiny. The set designs had appeared outside his doors as he finished them. Then he'd built a model, which had also been left in the hall during the night, followed by the renderings, the drawings that Zedediah and Archie were using to build the parts of the set that they could build in the woodshop. So far, none of this had required Hal to come out of his room. Jake had still never met him face to face. Wits End had become a beehive of theatrical activity. The number of costumes required was vastly greater than Lucille and Sybil could handle alone, so Cordelia, who had quickly finished the choreography and only had to go to a few rehearsals, was immediately drafted into the costume crew. Lucille had a sewing machine, but 2 more had been rented and bolts of cloth were brought from town. When even the 3 of them, working steadily and grumbling loudly, could not churn out Nun's habits fast enough, they shanghaied Govindaswamy, who was pretty good with a needle, to help. Jake had no idea what a guru normally did, except for meditating, which didn't seem to be a full-time occupation. But if Govindaswamy was any sort of example, gurus had a variety of talents. After Randolph's emergency had been declared, when it became clear that nobody had time to fix meals, Govindaswamy had abandoned his fast and taken over the kitchen. His sewing was adequate, but his cooking turned out to be spectacular, dramatic, intense, hot, but spectacular. Grocery runs were no longer a haphazard occurrence. Having quickly discovered that Treybridge had no grocery that stocked the ingredients he needed, Govindaswamy would borrow Archie's pickup and disappear for hours at a time, coming back with huge bags of rice, bags and boxes of meats and vegetables and various strange herbs and spices, from which he concocted meals the like of which Jake had never encountered. Once, after Wolfie had gotten loose again and tore open a huge burlap bag full of rice that Govindaswamy had set on the ground by the truck while he took the rest of the purchases inside, Jake had seen the man look speculatively at the goat. But Jake figured that had only been his imagination. Even if Indians ate goat, which Jake didn't think they did, Govindaswamy would never go after Lucille's beloved Wolfie. It was an education in itself to watch Govindaswamy in the kitchen. "Bashan," he would say to Jake and Destiny as he moved around the room chopping and stirring and tasting. "Bashan is necessary to all life, all of life, meditating, working, cooking, eating, especially eating." It took the Applewhites no time at all to adapt to the change in their dietary habits. Cordelia even gave up her green gunk. No matter how busy they were, everybody stopped whatever they were doing at lunch, and again at dinner time, to gather in the dining room for the feasts Govindaswamy prepared. There were curries, chutneys, and wonderful soft flatbreads. As much food as appeared on the table invariably disappeared before the end of the meal. Some of the dishes were so spicy they were almost too painful to eat. But Govindaswamy explained that yogurt and sugar both cooled the tongue. He served plenty of yogurt sauces and gallons of Destiny's favorite grape Kool-Aid. It was such a dinner they had just finished. Jake's mouth still tingled from the lamb curry. Now he was doing his best to make sure he had everything he would need at rehearsal. It wasn't easy. The other actors only had to take their script, maybe a bottle of water, and something to do while they were waiting to go on stage. Jake had to take Winston's leash, in case the dog needed to go outside during rehearsal, his water dish, and a bag of liver treats to distract him from howling along with the accordion. There was something about certain notes on the accordion that sent the dog into long, drawn-out howls that only liver treats would stop. Winston's essential items were already packed into one of the large canvas bags Lucille had provided. Destiny's needs were considerably more complicated. It wasn't easy to keep the kid busy and occupied and out of mischief for the 3 or 4, sometimes even 5 hours of rehearsal. Even for a 4-year-old, Destiny's boredom threshold seemed extraordinarily low. Every night Jake filled the bags with as many distractions as he could think of. He took picture books, never the same ones twice in a row. He took a thick pad of paper and watercolor markers, and he always threw in a few toys, though Destiny did not seem particularly interested in toys. During the last rehearsal, Destiny had found a screwdriver somewhere and spent the whole time Jake was on stage unscrewing seat bottoms in the auditorium. No one had noticed what he was doing until Mrs. Montrose, who had come to observe the rehearsal, sat down in one of the unscrewed seats. It detached and crashed to the floor, taking her with it. She had blamed Randolph. Randolph had blamed Jake. So now Jake scoured the schoolroom to come up with new ideas. He added a few handfuls of Legos, some brightly colored sticks of modeling clay, and a box full of miniature cars. "Anything else you want to take?" he asked Destiny. Destiny stopped singing to ponder the question. "The caterpillars," he said. "Can't take the caterpillars," Jake told him. "What if they gets to be butterflies while we're gone?" "They won't all do it at the same time," Jake assured him. "I'll take off the top, and if one does, it'll be here fluttering around the schoolroom when we get back." Destiny went back to his song. Cordelia hurried in, carrying a pair of dark brown pants and a shirt. She tossed them at Jake. "Your messenger uniform. At least, I think it'll do. I don't know what messengers wore in Austria in the 30s, but take it with you and wear it for your scene tonight. See what the Emperor of the World thinks. If he likes it, I can scratch another costume off the list. Except for the hat. We don't have a hat yet." Destiny stopped singing. "I want a uniform. Make me one too, Delia, with a hat." "It's a costume. You're not in the show. You don't get a costume." Cordelia's voice was tight. "But I want one like Jake's, with a hat. I want to—" "Listen, you little beast, there are 46 people in this show, and most of them have at least 4 costumes. You don't get a costume." "I only have 2, Jake said. This one and the SS uniform. Randolph said those are rented." "Yeah, but we do have to do alterations to make them fit. I'm not a costumer. I am a dancer, a choreographer. Never again, I tell you, never, ever, ever again." Cordelia turned to go. "Thank heavens for the Mother Abbess," she muttered as she left. "One habit for the whole show, and I've finished it." Jake folded the uniform and put it in the bag with Destiny's toys. "Okay, Guy, let's go." Destiny stood with his arms crossed, not moving. "I want a costume. I want to be in the show." "You can't. People in the show have to sing and act." "I can sing. What you got to do to act?" "Pretend to be someone you aren't," Jake said. "I can pretend. I pretended I'm a pirate all the time. It's too late. All the parts are already taken. You get to be audience." "Does audience get a costume?" "No. Come on. It's time to go." The trip to rehearsals required 2 vehicles. The Miata with Randolph and ED left 15 minutes ahead because they needed to get to the theater in time to set up. Then came Sybil's Volvo station wagon, driven by Cordelia, with Jeremy Bernstein and his accordion, Jake and Destiny, and Winston. Usually Destiny sang and talked the whole way to Treybridge. Tonight he sat in the corner of the back seat and sulked. At the time, the restful silence seemed like a good thing. It was only later that Jake realized that a sulky Destiny was never a good thing. Wearing the messenger uniform that Randolph said made him look like a UPS delivery man, Jake had just finished whirling Jeanie around and was getting himself ready for the kiss that ended their dance when he smelled something burning. Over Jeanie's shoulder he saw a billowing plume of white smoke. "Fire!" he yelled. In the ensuing panic, the youngest of the child actors fell off the stage. Her screams combined with Winston's frenzied barkings to nearly drown out the contradictory orders being shouted from all directions. "Call 911! Get out! Get out! Everybody get outside! Find the fire extinguisher! Call 911!" It was Edie who found the extinguisher and put out the fire before any serious damage was done. It had started in a wastebasket backstage where Destiny had taken apart the pad of paper, crumpled every sheet into a ball, and set fire to the papers with Jake's lighter. He had found the lighter in the pocket of Jake's pants after Jake had changed into his messenger uniform and gone on stage for his scene. "I was acting," Destiny explained when he was found with the incriminating lighter still in his hand. "I was pretending to be Jake, burning down his school, only I didn't have any gasoline." Randolph, of course, after decreeing that Destiny was never to have matches, lighters, or even paper in his possession again ever in his entire life, blamed Jake.